So you remember the 1990s when all the Japanese manufacturers had a sports car of some sort. The Mazda had the RX-7, Toyota had the Supra and the MR2 and Celica and all sorts of cars.
Yeah.
But the top of the line, the very best sports car coming out of Japan was always the NSX. It was the very best, the cream of the crop of the sports cars out of Japan. And today, at last, I get to drive one of these NSXs. Okay, so I'm here with Peter. Peter is the lucky owner of this NSX, and he's going to be allowing me to drive it, which I'm very grateful for. But before we get out and drive it, I wanted to talk a little bit about the car, the history. This is your second NSX,
This is my second NSX. As a matter of fact, I had a 1991 NSX. That was the first year model for a number of years.
Yeah.
Loved the car.
Yeah.
And unfortunately parted with it.
Yeah. And they ran from 1990 to 2005, didn't they?
2005
Yeah.
with a slight body update in 2002. So this is
with
a 2000.
The pop-up headlights disappeared
Yes,
at
that is
point,
correct. And a little bit of body, they changed the front bumper,
Yeah.
rear bumper a little bit, and changed the rocker panels a bit.
Yeah.
Fundamentally the same car, they just freshened it up a little bit.
And there was an engine and a transmission change, well, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. The original engines were all 3.0 liter engines.
Yep.
And in fact, the first manual shift cars were all unassisted power steering. They were just, they weren't power steering. They're just non-power steering.
Yep.
And with 5-speed transmissions. And then somewhere around 1996, they added the 3.2 liter with a 6-speed transmission.
And they bumped it up to almost 300 horsepower at that point, didn't they?
Yeah, they went from 270 to 290.
Yep.
So the goal that Honda had when it developed this car was to develop a car with that had a specific horsepower to weight ratio of between 11 and 12, which the best supercars had at the time. So this car, the target weight was around 3,100 pounds or 3,000 pounds. This car weighs just over 3,100 pounds. By the way, same as the new Carrera S.
Oh, yeah.
And in order to make that horsepower to weight ratio, they figured they had to be in the 270 horsepower ranges, which the first engines came out at.
Yeah. And they've done extraordinary things to keep the weight down on this car, haven't they?
It's an all-aluminum monocoque chassis. That's one of the first, as a matter of fact. And these exquisite aluminum wishbone suspension parts.
Right.
This car really was thought out well. And their intent was, or their idea was, that they were going to produce a car that could outperform a Ferrari 340 at the time. And that was their target goal. And they achieved that, as a matter of fact. This car did outperform 340. There's actually a story, I don't know the truth of this story, that Ferrari was so impressed with the car they purchased one of these to figure out why it was so good.
And of course here in the US it's an Acura NSX, but everywhere else in the world it's a Honda NSX.
That is correct, because the Acura brand is not seen in Europe, so they had to sell it as a Honda NSX. That's correct. Yeah.
And I think one of the curious things that I know about Acura is that it is actually the first of the luxury brands out of Japan. It actually beat Lexus. I think a lot of people think Lexus was first and then everyone copied Lexus, but actually Honda created Acura 3 years before Lexus, didn't they?
That's right, and this car came not that long after that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
A few years later.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a legend, this car, isn't it?
I think this car is it's a historically very significant car for the number of new features that it had. For example, the engines have titanium connecting rods, which is never done before in a production car. This car has
weight down and allow it to rev out
8,000 RPM red light on this car back in 1990, 1991. And a VTEC engine with variable valve technology. Electric power steering, the first use of electric power steering in an automobile.
And does that have an impact on the feel, do you think, of the steering?
Surprisingly enough, I think they've got it pretty right back in, in the mid-90s.
So they could teach a few other manufacturers things.
Exactly right. Now, it's of course common to do electric power steering, but they were the first to put electric power steering in a car. So this car really was, a groundbreaking car when it came out. Unfortunately, it just never had the prestige of a Ferrari, and so the numbers were very low. The first year of production was very high. That was their largest year. Somewhere around 3,000 cars were produced. But in 2000, they only brought 280 some into this country. This is one of 26 in this color combination.
Wow. So do you get a lot of recognition in the car, or not as much as you'd think, because it's just not something that people know what it is?
People don't know what it is, as a matter of fact. I think the people that do think it's a Ferrari of some sort, and then they get kind of taken aback when they look up, at the back of the car. It's an Acura in the back. They go, what kind of Acura is that?
Yeah.
But it's rare to see another one, as a matter of fact.
Sure.
Very few of them around.
I see very few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because of that, they've held their value, haven't they? It's not like other Japanese sports cars which have gone through their time.
They've held their value well, and now they are appreciating.
Really?
In that state. Yeah, they're appreciating now. And so what's happened is the cars that were available in the country, of course, changed hands many times and ended up in the hands of tuners, and the like would start putting turbos on them and kits, body kits and fat tires and big wheels. So you see them, many of them for sale with high miles with all this goofy stuff on it. But to find a rare, exact.
So yours is completely stock?
This is completely stock. There's nothing been done to this car.
And you've got 19,000 miles on it?
19,000 original miles on
and this is
car.
a 2000?
And this is a 2000.
So this is before they went to the fixed headlights. I think a real NSX has to have pop-up headlights.
You've got to have the pop-up headlights. Yep.
Yeah. So this is pretty much the perfect NSX.
Right.
By anyone's standards.
So the ergonomics in this car were way ahead of what you would find in a supercar of the time. I mean, its seating position is perfect.
Yeah.
The availability of all the controls is perfect.
The seats are phenomenal, aren't they?
They're the finest seats I've ever sat in, and that's bar none. And
it really is such a great. It's just. I feel like the seat is made for my body shape, sort of. Does anyone get in this and feel uncomfortable?
Not at all. In fact, the motoring journalists have said that it doesn't matter whether you're tall or short or fat or slim, this seat seems to work. And then another journalist once commented, he said, you don't sit on these seats, you sit in these seats.
Yeah, I would agree.
And they really are wonderful seats.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. And the only adjustments they have are fore and aft and recline. That's it. There's no seat heating. There's no an up and down. That's it.
Let's turn this on and have a quick look around the inside here. And even sitting here, with the steering wheel, I can see all of the gauges straight through the wheel. Like they're all perfectly clear. There's not the steering wheel's not blocking anything. And so everything is here. You've got your cruise control. Obviously, this is a 1990s car, so you're not going to have all of the mod cons of modern cars, but it's got what you need, hasn't it?
Yes, and somewhat unusual is the fact that these stalks here don't actually connect down into the steering column. They're actually electrically activating on both sides.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you got a TDS button. That's the traction control on and off. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. If you really want to have a lot of fun, you turn that baby off, and then you can really go crazy.
Right. It's got a Bose, a 90s.
It's got a Bose stereo. Right.
And
tape player.
Climate control, though.
Climate control is automatic climate control. Yeah. So you just put it in auto, it sets the temperature.
Do you have any tapes?
I have some tapes, but I haven't put one in a long time.
Yeah. And you've got some documentation.
Well, I started collecting documentation way back. This is my second one, and I found some original literature for the 1995, which is the T-top version of the Acura.
Yep.
That's a rather nice exploded view of the engine in here, which.
Well, speaking of the T-top, so this is a T-top model.
This is a T-top model. That's right.
They all started doing that after a certain point, didn't they?
Yes, that is correct. But the original ones were all just hard tops, and all the original ones had black hard tops.
Right.
One of the things they were trying to copy, if you will, if that's the term I want to use, was they liked the silhouette of the F-16 fighter, the canopy of the F-16 fighter. So they tried to make this roofline emulate the F-16 fighter. That
bubble.
That is right, and they seem to have gotten that right.
Yeah.
So it's a variable valve input, exhaust and intake engine of 3.2 liters in this particular car, with a specific horsepower of 290. Seems low today.
Yeah.
But in fact, it achieved their goal of 11.5 pounds per horsepower, which makes the car extraordinarily quick. by today's standards, not as quick as
Sure.
many cars as you can imagine, but at the time,
Yeah.
it's quite a quick car. This car with an 8,000 RPM red line, it just loves to rev. And as you'll probably hear later when we get the sound going and the car driving, you'll feel some just joyous sounds coming out of the back of the car.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So in addition to the sales literature, there were a number of articles written in the various magazines about this car. And they rated this car as the Car and Driver said this is the best car of its time.
Yeah.
And it was classified as a supercar when it came out.
Let's have a look at how did it win this?
Well, this was the test done in 1990, an NSX against Ferrari 348 Carrera,
Yep.
911 Carrera, the Z06 Corvette, and the Lotus. And they scored the Acura #1 by a wide margin.
Wow, 93 points, and the next one was 81 points.
Actually,
87.
the Carrera was 87, the closest, but you can see across the top all 9s and 10s.
Wow.
And so they just said phenomenal automobile.
Yeah.
Phenomenal automobile. And of course all of that's repeated in other tests later on.
Yeah.
My most prized piece of literature is this, which is very rare. This was produced when the Acura first came out. You could get these at the Honda dealer. This is the technical book on the NSX. It talks about its gestation, the concept behind the car, and all the detail of all the bits and pieces of the manufacturing of the car. And I've never seen another one, although I happen to be the proud owner of 2 of these.
Okay. So you're hoarding them, basically.
Exactly right. Here's the NSX
I
from the F-16 fighter, and you can see the similarity in the cowl here.
Yeah.
And this talks about their performance envelope where they want it to fit. It's not the fastest car, or its numbers aren't the greatest, but it's the sum of the parts which makes this car so great. Sure. It's quite extraordinary.
Oh, that's
so the
great.
detail, it's all aluminum chassis and no production line. They're literally pushed around on dollies and put together by hand.
So is there anything special you need to do to maintain this car?
Nothing. It's Honda reliable.
Right. Isn't that fantastic?
Change the oil.
So it's a fast Civic, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Periodic replace the timing belt, but
right. Oh, it's beautiful. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick walk around the outside, and we'll have a look at the engine. We'll have a look what's under the hood at the front, and then we'll take it for a spin.
Great.
Thanks, Peter.
So this is all original, Peter, isn't it?
All original. Nothing's changed.
The wheels seem tiny by today's standards, don't they?
Where the fun begins.
Look at it. What a work of art. Is this some sort of powder coating?
Well,
Is
it's a wrinkle finish.
Right.
It's standard on the engine.
Yep.
The earlier ones were black, but they changed to red later on.
Yep.
I haven't goofed with anything here. Some people, the tuners put air boxes in here and all kinds of stuff, but this is totally the way it came from the factory. Variable valve engine, of course. 4 valves per cylinder.
Yep. And you change the oil yourself?
Yes. It's not very difficult.
Yep.
Yes. Haven't had to do anything else to it other than that.
Yep. And there's a luggage compartment in the back.
There's a real trunk.
Yep.
In the front, in the back.
Look at that.
Place to put stuff.
The front.
There's no room to put stuff.
There's no room to put stuff.
All
Spare wheel. ABS.
ABS, 4-channel ABS.
Right. And your fuses.
And the battery's down there.
Oh, the battery's down here as well?
Yeah, again for weight distribution.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Boy, you wouldn't want to be jumping this car. I guess you could get down there. There's the positive. Put it on the negative.
Yep.
Oh, very good. All right, I think we should take it for a drive.
Let's do that.
Okay.
We're off. Wow.
Listen to it. So the first thing I notice is the visibility is so amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In every direction, it's a big fishbowl.
Well, that was one of the requirements of the design, was to have good 360-degree visibility.
Yep.
That's the F-16 cockpit idea.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm not going to get to drive this car at its limits today. It's not my car and I'm not experienced enough in it. But have you taken it close to its limits? How does it feel?
It feels like you just experienced right there, of course. But no, I haven't really pushed it to the limits. I've been reluctant to put it on the track. I just, you know, a little bit concerned about its, well, you know, its care, if you will.
It's a work of
but
art.
Occasionally I'll run it up as you have done. And it's just like unbelievable car. It's just it's the whole package, you know. Despite the fact that it's only a 290 horsepower engine, it's a light car, 3,100 pound car, and so its performance with a highly revving engine is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's still relevant today compared to other supercars.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any more power. It just pushes you.
Exactly.
And for the weight of the car, and listen to that engine. Oh. Yeah, everything about it is a real surprise.
Balanced, extremely well balanced.
Yeah, yeah. I had high expectations going into driving this car, and it certainly exceeded my expectations. The sound, the feel through the wheels, the short shift as well. It's such a lovely gearbox. So Peter's just bought a 911 Carrera 2, just like my old one. And how's your feelings between this car and that? You know.
Well, you know, I haven't had the Carrera very long.
Yep.
It's clearly a driver's car. Having come from a C7 Corvette, which is all about the power.
Yeah.
You know, Corvette. The Corvette tells you, "I want to go out and smoke my tires," whereas the Porsche says, "I want to go down to the track. I want to drive the car." It's a terrific handling car.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of similarity between this and the Porsche. This is a little easier shifting, I find, than the Porsche.
This is a very easy short shift, isn't it?
This is a short shift, and I can shift this car faster than I can the Porsche.
Yeah.
And smoother, too, I might add.
Yeah.
I haven't really got into the power in my car yet because I haven't really broken it in at 200 miles. I didn't want to really stand on it.
Yeah.
So I imagine I'm going to have a great surprise when that comes. But this car, of all the cars I've ever owned, this car has always put the smile on my face. This is by far the most fun car I've ever owned. Wow.
Well, Peter, I can't thank you enough for letting me drive your beautiful NSX today. It's just been such an amazing experience. I really loved every second of it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it because it's you know, owning a car like this and knowing what it's capable of doing, and yet people haven't experienced this car as I have experienced and how you've experienced. No one ever just don't understand what you can do with this car and how good it is. To me, to them, I think the average person looks at this car and says, "Well, it's a Ferrari. It's a Japanese Ferrari. It looks pretty, but you know, so what? You know, you get to drive the car and you change your impression."
Yeah, yeah. Before we go, I wanted to show you what's in this garage. What do we have here? Doggy's barking. So this is brand new?
Brand new.
Just the right color, just the right model. I approve. And Peter got a manual transmission as well. Fantastic.